A pregnant teenager, a school, and an uncle. A regular day turned into a nightmare that has left a family shattered. It was a day like any other. The sun rose, the birds sang, and the world continued on its axis. A young girl with a promising future and a life growing within her was going about her routine. She was a student, a daughter, a sister, and soon to be a mother. Little did she know this day would not end like the others. Her uncle, a figure of trust and family, arrived at her school to pick her up. This was not an unusual occurrence. He often assisted with transportation, a helping hand in the hustle and bustle of daily life. But on this day, their usual route home would take a terrible, unanticipated turn. As the afternoon turned into evening, her family began to worry. She was not one to be late or uncommunicative. Calls went unanswered, messages echoed in the void. The pregnant teenager, who should have been safe at home, was nowhere to be found. The hours ticked by, each one heavier than the last. A sense of unease began to creep in. This was not just the worry of a delayed return, but the bone-chilling fear of a disappearance. The family found themselves trapped in a horrifying waiting game, their worst fears slowly becoming a reality. Each passing moment was a moment she was missing, a moment her unborn child was missing. The confusion was overwhelming, the worry all-consuming, a family torn apart by the inexplicable absence of one of their own, left to wonder what could have possibly happened on a seemingly ordinary day. And just like that, she vanished without a trace. As the sun rose the next day, the frantic search for the missing teenager began. It was a day of distress, of desperation, and of hope, as family, friends, and the local community banded together to find the young girl. The teenager's parents were at the heart of the search, their faces etched with worry, their hearts filled with dread. They sought out anyone who could help, anyone who might have seen something, anything that could provide a clue to their daughter's whereabouts. They posted her picture on every lamppost, every shop window, every corner of their small town. Their pleas echoed through the streets, a silent cry for their missing child. Friends of the teenager, classmates from school, joined the search. They combed through parks, through alleyways, through the places they used to hang out, hoping to find some trace of their friend. They held on to the belief that she was out there somewhere, waiting to be found. The local community too rallied around the family. Strangers offered their support, their time, their resources. They joined the search parties, they spread the word, they prayed for the teenager's safe return. It was a town united in fear, in hope, in the shared mission to bring their girl home. And then there were the police. They swooped in with their expertise, their resources, their solemn promise to do everything they could to find the teenager. They followed every lead, every tip, every hunch. They examined the school's CCTV footage, they questioned the teenager's friends, they interrogated her uncle. They were relentless, tireless in their pursuit of the truth. But every lead, every trace, seemed to only deepen the mystery. The search for the missing teenager was just beginning, and already it was shaping up to be a case that would haunt the small town for years to come. A case that would leave them asking, where was the teenager, and would they ever find her? But every lead, every trace, seemed to only deepen the mystery. The last person to see her, the uncle, but was he also the perpetrator? Our focus now shifts to the uncle, the last known individual to be in contact with the missing teenager. He willingly provides his alibi to the authorities, asserting that after picking her up from school, they had stopped for ice cream, a treat they often indulged in before he dropped her off at home. He then proceeded to his workplace, a detail corroborated by his time-stamped punch card and co-workers. His cooperation with the police was commendable. He voluntarily handed over his car for forensic analysis, submitted to a polygraph test, and provided access to his phone records. The car showed no signs of struggle or evidence of foul play. The polygraph test, while not foolproof, indicated no deception. His phone records supported his timeline, but doubts started to creep in. Small inconsistencies began to surface. The ice cream parlor's CCTV footage showed the pair leaving earlier than the uncle's stated time. The teenage girl's friends shared that she seemed unusually quiet and distant that day. Moreover, A neighbor claimed to have noticed the uncle's car parked near the girl's home longer than he had stated. These discrepancies, however minor, began to cast a shadow of suspicion. Social media sleuths and armchair detectives were quick to point the finger at the uncle, despite the lack of substantial evidence. His name was dragged through the mud, his character assassinated, all based on conjecture and coincidence. The police, however, found no concrete proof to tie him to the disappearance. His alibi had minor inconsistencies, but nothing that could conclusively link him to a crime. His cooperation with the investigation was seen as a positive sign, not the actions of a guilty man trying to cover his tracks. In the eyes of the law, he was clear, but in the court of public opinion, the jury was still out. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The search for the teenager seemed to hit a dead end. A palpable sense of frustration began to permeate the investigation. Detectives found themselves going around in circles, retracing steps, revisiting old leads, sifting through the same evidence again and again. The once vibrant and bustling investigation room now echoed with a deafening silence, punctuated only by the rustling of papers and the occasional sigh of a weary officer. As the days wore on, the once steady stream of tips and leads slowed to a trickle. Each new piece of information, each potential lead was pounced on with a desperate hope, only to be followed by the crushing disappointment of another dead end. The lack of new evidence was not for want of trying. Search teams combed through miles of wilderness, divers plumbed the depths of local lakes, and yet there was nothing, no sign of the missing teenager. The family's despair grew with each passing day. Their once lively home now seemed like a mausoleum, a constant reminder of the absence that gnawed at their hearts. The mother's eyes, once bright with hope, now reflected a deep, unspoken pain. The father's strong shoulders seemed to sag a little more each day, burdened by the weight of the unknown. Yet in the midst of this despair they clung to each other, their love and shared grief the only thing keeping them afloat in this sea of uncertainty. Every new dawn brought with it a fresh wave of sorrow, as the reality of the teenager's absence set in anew. The waiting was agonizing, the not knowing was torture. Yet they held on, for hope is a stubborn thing. It clings on even when reason dictates otherwise. And so they waited, hoped and prayed, their hearts heavy, but their resolve unbroken. Hope was fading, but the search was far from over. Just when all seemed lost, a glimmer of hope appeared. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the case of the missing pregnant teenager was inching closer to becoming another cold case. But then, like a beacon in the darkness, new evidence emerged. This wasn't just any evidence. This was the kind that could breathe life back into a stagnant investigation. It was a scrap of fabric discovered in a remote woodland area, a fabric that matched the clothing the teenager was last seen wearing. The fabric was torn and tattered, indicating a possible struggle, but more importantly, it was found miles away from where she was last seen, opening up a whole new area of search. The discovery of this evidence reinvigorated the investigation. It was a tangible piece of the puzzle that had been missing. Investigators who had been tirelessly working the case now had a new lead to follow, a new path to explore. The discovery of the fabric suggested that the teenager might have been taken to this remote area. But why, and by whom? The fabric was sent for forensic testing in the hope that it might hold more answers. Could there be DNA on it? Or perhaps traces of soil that could pinpoint a more specific location? The possibilities were endless, and each one could lead to another piece of the puzzle. The emergence of this new evidence provided a much-needed spark. It was a reminder that even when things seem bleak, there is always a chance for a breakthrough. It was a reminder that every piece of evidence, no matter how insignificant it may seem, can be crucial in solving a case. With this new evidence in hand, the investigators were back on the trail, more determined than ever to find the missing teenager. The case was back from the dead, and the hunt was on. Today the case remains a mystery, but the search for the truth continues. The investigation into the disappearance of the pregnant teenager persists with added vigor, even as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months. Despite the passage of time, The case remains as enigmatic as ever, with each clue only serving to deepen the mystery rather than provide a resolution. Law enforcement agencies, both local and national, are working tirelessly, leaving no stone unturned. They are collaborating with various organizations and utilizing advanced technology to aid their search efforts. The case has garnered significant attention, and tip lines have been established to encourage public involvement. Numerous leads have been followed, yet the pregnant teenager remains missing. The impact on the family is indescribable. Their anguish is palpable, their worry immeasurable. Every passing day without news of their loved one is a day marked by a cruel combination of hope and despair. But they remain resilient, steadfast in their belief that answers will be found and their daughter will return home. The community, too, has rallied around the family, offering support and assistance in any way they can. Vigils are held, prayers are said, and the hope that the teenager will be found safe and sound never wavers. Yet, as the investigation continues, more questions arise than answers. The uncle's alibi remains unbroken. The evidence found brings little clarity. The leads followed, while promising at first, often end up as dead ends. The whereabouts of the pregnant teenager remain unknown. As the search for the truth continues, the case has become a haunting reminder of the vulnerability of our society and the need for vigilance in our daily lives. It is a test of our collective strength and our ability to endure in the face of adversity. The mystery deepens and the question remains: what happened to the pregnant teenager? A family in despair, a community in shock, and a mystery that continues to baffle. As we draw this chilling narrative to a close, it's evident that this case of the pregnant teen's vanishing act is far from resolved. It's a story that began with a simple school pickup by her uncle, spiraled into a frantic search, and then descended into a maze of unanswered questions and eerie silence. The twists and turns of this case have been many. We explored the initial disappearance, the desperate search that ensued, and the uncle's alibi that seemed to hold water, only to later drip with inconsistencies. The investigation hit a brick wall, only to be reignited by the emergence of new evidence. Yet here we are, still searching for that elusive breakthrough. We recounted the current status of the case, how it stands today, still shrouded in mystery and speculation. A family pines for their lost daughter, a community is left in a state of unease, and a crime remains unsolved. But remember, every piece of the puzzle matters, and sometimes the smallest detail can turn the tide. If you have any information, any at all, it might just be the key to unlocking this enigma. This is more than just a story. It's a plea for justice, a call for closure, and a testament to the resilience of those who refuse to let this case go cold. As we continue to seek answers, one can only hope that the truth will eventually come to light. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more such intriguing stories. Until next time, keep seeking the truth.